Hey, all, it's Dinosa. I was actually asked to do this another review. Seems like I do nothing but reviews with films, but the movie I was asked to do is AE After Earth with Will Smith. Well, everyone's seen Iron Man, Super, or Man of Steel, I think, in next week or something like that. Just doing some awkward ones or just different ones that weren't too successful. Um, and it's actually tragic because this film is actually kind of decent. It's not I would say it's not this. It's not a movie thing, but it's definitely a DVD rental or even a Amazon Instant Video thing. And then simply the movie stars Will Smith and I believe most of his family, um, and his son in particular, I believe. Where is there these people that are descendants of humans or mankind who has left Earth 1,000 years from now and made a new colony elsewhere. However, interestingly enough, the same medical techniques that we know of today are still used on that. But so specifically, artery shunts, where it's simply just a tube. And then, but we'll get into that in a moment. So anyway, the whole film starts. It's the plot's kind of typical, where it's you have a father who is just this badass warrior general, and you have the son in his shadow, and the son doesn't know how to kind of step outside of his father's shadow. But at the same time, the son witnessed his own sister's death because when humans left Earth to go to this other planet called Nova Prime, they weren't alone, and these aliens showed up and dropped monsters down on the same planet to kill the humans. But over time, they found out the monsters can smell fear. The pheromones on our sweat, they could smell our fear, literally. So what happened is this guy, Will Smith's character, General, he found a way not to be absolutely no fear to these things, and these creatures couldn't see him, and he could just walk right up and chop them up to fish bait. There was no deal to him, and he was the standard to the Ranger group, as they called it. Now, a couple idiosyncrasies on that. I guess somehow everyone speaks the Queen's English on this, because everyone was in an English accent, with the exception of one guy who was in a Scottish accent. Everyone was English, and there's no California drawls, there's no Southern dialect, nothing. It's just it's check your equipment, evaluate. Just all dry. It's not what you would expect from Will Smith as an acting. I think it was a kind of a neat show because it shows a little breadth of his skill, but at the same time, we're not used to it. We're used to like Bad Boys kind of thing, or at least because that's what I grew up with. We're like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Bad Boys, Enemy of the State, but then this was just dry English, and it also showed Will Smith's, like, he's definitely getting older, but that's expected. I mean, come on, Sean Connery doesn't look the same as he did that when he first did James Bond, but it's just something that here I think you really meld well with the role. But interesting stuff. Even his son was really just dry English. I think there's only a time where someone said, "Dad," like, "What?" He says, "That sucked," and he said, "Yes, it did, son." So that was kind of funny. But the film has to do with the son is trying to become a ranger, and he's denied promotion by this one trainer. The general knows this trainer, and the general said, "Well, to his son, it's not your fault. You're young. You're not ready. He knows his stuff. You're just not ready yet." So, what happened is that the son didn't get into the Rangers. Now, he says, "That's okay, you can try next year." And then later on, the wife says, "You got to take care of your son because you're being a general, and you got to, man him up here." So he takes his son on a training mission, general's prerogative, to this training facility where, with one of these alien creatures, they're going to teach. They captured one of these creatures, and they're going to teach the kid how to have no fear in one of these environments. Well, they get it. Things get a little sidetracked. They get in an asteroid field. They hit warp drive, messes things up, and ironically, they crash back, land on the same planet they left 1,000 years ago, Earth. Now, Earth has gone through some tremendous changes. Mainly, the film shows what Earth looks like without man's interference. And it's overrun with animals. It's the buffaloes, like all of them, see extinct buffaloes. They're everywhere. Whales, birds, just thousands of birds. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm not sure if that many buffalo or that many birds ever flew like all at the same time, but it was amazing to think for a moment that if man didn't interfere with Earth, then what would Earth look like? I've wondered sometimes that what did the San Francisco Bay Area look like before the people came? Specifically San Francisco, and that's the most interesting, because if you look at the photographs from the 1800s, there are farms where the major buildings are. People owned the whole square where, like, the Transamerica building is. But in this case, this is 1,000 years humans haven't been there, and growth is everywhere and basically covering everything. So they crash land on the Earth, and then they have to find, during the crash landing, Will Smith breaks his legs badly, and he has to get a device, a signaling device, to send for help. Unfortunately, the only other survivor is his son, who's not really ready for this. So he told his son, you have to do this, you have to go out there and get this other beacon. So what happens is, it's kind of a son stepping out of the father, but the son also challenging the father's sins, which happens. All sons end up challenging the father's sins for what things they did wrong. Even though the father may have thought they were doing the right, they weren't. But sometimes they may have to make some hard decisions. But anyway, what happens is they go through. It's kind of it's growing up. You're just on the verge of being a man, and then you get thrown into the fire to see, and you got to go step by step, and most people don't survive. In this case, Will Smith's character did survive, because he got to know his father. The son of Will Smith, Jaden, I think it is, got to survive because he learned more about his father, but he learned with his amazing survival suit and how to calm his fear. But there's some interesting things. Now, one thing in the background, the forest specifically, I really think they went to Northern California forests, specifically probably the same place where they filmed Return of the Jedi, because the terrain's very similar. Some of the waterfalls, I think they filmed that in Hawaii, because I recognized one of the waterfalls. But then there's some CG waterfalls that were just huge, which I think the only place ever even close to that is Victoria in South America. And that's, most people view that from the air. They don't land there to see, because it's a little dangerous. Let's see. So there's some amazing, but then there's monkeys in the California forests, or some, and the monkeys are like in the redwood forest here, which is not native, but they could have been city monkeys that multiplied in zoos. Who knows? So anyway, they go out, they're trying to get things, and then what you come across is some similar animals, but a lot of the animals are a lot bigger, such as a hawk. Is a lot bigger. It's about it's like 6 feet wing length and big, and that actually in a way is possible, because before man really got in there and did things, there were creatures, which we have the skeletons, that they were huge. I don't know if there was these huge hawks, but there was definitely pterodactyls. There was sea creatures were monstrous. Sharks especially is just huge. But I think because they existed is because there were thousands, like, for example, with whales. There were probably thousands, maybe millions of whales. Because the system survived without man's interference. Actually, if you really want to get down to it, it's man who's a bunch of locusts. I'm getting sidetracked. But anyway, you have this one kid, challenging, proving to his father he can do it. He gets up, he finds the beacon, the device, but the device doesn't work because there's a volcano on the horizon causing electrical interference. So he has to get on top of the volcano, or at least at the peak, to send the signal. So while he's going up the signal, or going up the mountain, that's when he encounters one of the aliens that escaped on the transport ship. And then eventually, you can kind of see it where the alien is really whooping him hard, but is not able to kill him because the sun keeps backing off. The sun calms down, and it doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care, and it was an interesting story because Will Smith's character talked about his first alien kill, and he said the first alien killed this alien put a pincer on my shoulder, and I was drowning, and I looked up, man, that's pretty. And then I looked over at the pincer and said, I don't want this in my shoulder anymore. And just took it out. And ironically, that happens when people are pushed to a point where they start making those decisions. And there was one interesting thing the film did talk about, was fear, whereas fear was manufactured. On that, there's danger, there's being cautious, but fear is a manufactured thing. That in our minds we manufacture fear, and that's what his whole point of the film was, is that if we can get beyond fear, but understand caution and danger, then it would make yourself as better as a person. And that's not the first time someone else saw that. It is only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I mean, it's an old saying, but it's a very true point. I know this is going to be put in a motivational film. I know it is on YouTube or something. But overall, eventually he finds the alien. They have the showdown, but then while he's lying on the ground bleeding, he stops being scared because he's accepted what's happening, and then the alien can't find him because he can't smell the fear, and the alien starts swiping everywhere. And that's when Will Smith's character's son gets up, grabs what they call a cutlass, which looks like a double-bladed lightsaber, but it's blades, and he starts cutting this thing to pieces. And then after he beats the alien, he signals. The troops come in, they save them all, and Will Smith at the very end salutes his son, and then his son says at the end, I want to work with Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. And Will's like, yeah, I don't want to do this either, because the hard time they went through. But as the ship was flying off, you see all the animals, and you see a bunch of whales swimming in the ocean, which was really cool. One of the most interesting medical things, which I thought was interesting, which is true, is that this guy, Will Smith's character, had a broken artery in his left leg. And the system said it, and he needs a shunt, which is simply a tube. Well, he didn't really have that option, and he's by himself. So what he did is he got a rubber tube and literally put painkillers in there and cut his leg open to get it in the artery, and then move it to the other artery, and then let the blood flow. So the healing process. Now eventually that failed. That shunt eventually failed, but what it did is it showed that the medical technology of the 20th century, that basic skill can still exist. I mean, one of the things I know of is if someone's choking up of the neck, you can put a hole right here and they'll start breathing with a pen cap. So anyway, this is Dinosa. It's definitely worth the DVD rental. I don't know about the movies. If the movies do the matinee. But I hope you'll like the review, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.